Hey there, how's it going? So today we're going to be taking a look at Z Image Turbo. I know I'm a bit late to the party as this has been out for a couple of weeks, but I wanted to go ahead and test it and figure out some of the quirks of this model. So today we're mostly going to be going over some of the interesting things that you can do with this model. So just a quick rundown. It is a model that requires only 16 gigabytes of VRAM, which is pretty good because some of the later models, like Flux, require quite large GPUs, and we can't even use those. Now, it is a pretty good, accurate model, kind of like Flux, but it is less censored. It also can render text very well. This is the image turbo model. The base model and edit model are not out yet. So that means this model is catered to getting those images out as quickly as possible with as least amount of steps as possible, which is good if you want to go ahead and render them very, very quickly. Now, the easy method of installation is going to be making sure that you have Pinocchio installed. And Pinocchio is an application that helps you install other applications. Here is an example of Pinocchio. And I do have a guide on my channel, but everybody's basically covered it. So it is pretty simple. You click the installer for Pinocchio. You click the discover here and you click on ComfyUI. And all you have to do is click the one-click install Pinocchio, and you're going to get something that looks like this. Now, once you get it installed and it's working, you have to get a workflow. A workflow is basically the steps and nodes and all the information that image turbo or any other kind of image generation or video generation uh, needs for it to save output, etc. So here's an example of a good one. So go ahead and use this one. This is called Z Image Turbo Workflow on Civet AI. You can just click download from this guy, and all you have to do is import it into the workflows. So as you can see here, there's a button here called Workflow. You click open, and you open that workflow, and you get something like this. Now you're going to get a bunch of errors here, which is okay, because it's basically telling you that you're missing the nodes required to run it, which is correct. We are missing them. So all you have to do is go to Manager and click Install Missing Custom Nodes. Now you're going to get a list here. You're going to click All, Install, Update. You're going to have to quit out of Pinocchio, close it. You're going to restart it, do this a couple times until it's working. Now, to run it, all you have to do is click this run button. But if you are missing the safe tensor files, this will also not work. The safe tensor files required are basically these names called load clip, and it's usually selected by default. You can go ahead and look up the requirements here, and all the links will be usually in the workflows that you download. So you would have to download all of these first. Now, once you've downloaded and put them in the right folders, you're going to get basically a mess here. Now, it's pretty simple. All you have is a field here, which is your text input, and what you want the image to look like, and you can put a description here. And then what you do not want to include in the image. Now, the steps here are also quite important because you will select either between 8 and 100 steps. And what this does is give you a better image, better prompt following. It has more steps to follow your prompt. But after a certain amount of steps for this model, it doesn't really improve the picture. It might improve the prompt following a bit. That's about it. So you would want to start with 8 steps and work your way up if it's not following your prompt completely. Also, the width and height values are the output image maximum height and width. Now, I would go ahead and use 1024 by 1024 at first until you figure out what is the required steps for your height and width, the desired height and width. Now, the samplers there's a lot of samplers. By default, usually we use Euler and Simple, but I like VRSD. That seems to work for me. Now, once we get to something around here, which is called the Face Detailer workflow, the Face Detailer workflow will improve the facial details of the model or of the picture itself. I'm going to show you, actually, no, I can't really show you an example of this, but I want to show you a finished product of it. Now, this would be a finished product of just a face detailer and Z image. So as you can see, we've generated at a resolution of 1216 by 832. And it is pretty good. We have, kind of blurry images here all the way zoomed in, but it's to be expected from a 1216 by 832 image. Now, to get a larger image with more details, usually we'd have to run it through an upscaler. And we do have our default upscalers like Rabbit Cry and Foolhardy. And to activate it, all you have to do is click like on this box and click set group nodes to always, set group nodes to always, and this will activate the upscaler. Now, this upscaler by default is okay, but I don't really like to use it that much. And the reason is it doesn't really add details to the model or to the image itself. Now, what I did find out works best is this secondary upscaler model. It's called S DVR2 Upscale. And what that does is you can upscale about 4 times your resolution. And that means you're basically upscaling from a 1080p image to a 4K image. And it does a very good job of including more detail into the picture itself without destroying it. Now, I do recommend that you use some sort of face detailer first before upscaling, because it might kind of destroy your faces at the upscaling portion. Now, if we're going to go ahead and take a closer look at this image, just remember that we don't have a lot of details here, the eyes and the brows. And I also want to let you know that this is the dress. And just remember that this is kind of the um, shape and texture of it. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and click on to the next image, which is the upscaled one. So this is the upscaled image. It's about 3000 by 2048. It's about 4 times bigger than the last image. And if we zoom in here, you can see that we got full detail of the eyebrows, the eyes. We got wrinkles here, pores. Now we can really zoom in here to make sure that it's all good. Now, we also upscaled the ring, and you'll see that there's hair particles all around, and the hair is actually nicely rendered without being destroyed. Now, if we go to the jewelry is nice and upscaled, and also the dress has its own texture now. You can see that there is texture patterns on the dress. Now, overall, this is the before and after picture. Let's go before again. And this was the after picture. As you can see, we got a lot more detail, and it still looks very natural and good. Now, there are some quirks of this model. So this was the good part, and now I'm going to cover some of the bad parts. Now, some of the bad parts of the model is you want to only render at a low resolution if you have text in your prompt. What I mean by this is, here's an example of text rendered at a low resolution. This is 1024 by 1024. And you can see that it rendered pretty well. But if you are going to go ahead and try to render it, upscale it, render it natively at a higher resolution, you're going to have extra numbers, missing words, things that don't make sense, right? So go ahead and render only at 1024 by 1024 or lower resolutions if you have text in your prompt, and then go ahead and upscale it with the CDVR2 or any other upscalers. Now, some of the other quirks of this model, here's another example of trying to render natively at a high resolution. We have issues where part of the image is great, and then you got this bottom half that's completely destroyed. If you have a very long prompt, you will need to increase the number of steps by quite a lot. And even that might not help. You'd have to basically squish your prompt to make it less detailed. Here's an example of a woman that I had a very detailed prompt about. And as you can see, the wings are coming in kind of from weird angles here from the front for some reason. And there's only three fingers here. And honestly, it's completely a mess. And the reason this happened is because my prompt was way too long and too detailed. I included a lot of things, a lot of details on the types of um, tattoos, etc. So this is a bit better, but again, as you increase the prompt length, it gets worse. Okay, some of the good things about the model is you can do quite different kinds of images. You got, these renders of drawings. You can go ahead and have multiple beings in the image. Usually this is difficult. Usually there's only one subject, and then if you have one subject, it will focus on that subject. But you can go ahead and add a background subject like this monster that I have behind this angel lady. And by default, the angel lady is quite easy to render, but it does take quite a bit of finessing to try to get that horror in the background because they're so opposite. But it did indeed understand my prompt and get that horror in the background. So I'm quite impressed that it can do that because of they're completely different beings, opposite beings. And you can go ahead also, and here's the same lady, but I removed the wings and made them into tattoos and made it more of an anime style. So it's a kind of like a lifelike anime style lady now instead of photorealistic. All right, so those are some of the things I just wanted to mention about this model. And this is basically the new kind of SDXL model. There's definitely going to be more LoRa's, more ways to improve it and use these images in video generations. So I'm actually quite impressed. I'm going to be, playing with this quite a lot more. Here's like some more examples I got here. You can create, cards. You can create backgrounds, wallpapers. And remember, if we're generating an image that is a 4K image, and if you have a 4K monitor, that can basically be your background. The other stuff that I wanted to mention is it does fail to recognize some characters. So its world knowledge is not the best. And so here I was actually trying to draw not Charizard. So this is Charizard. I was actually trying to get it to draw Dragonite. Dragonite. Right? So this is the image I was going for, and this is what I got. And no matter what I did, I couldn't actually get Dragonite to appear. And that's because it defaults very highly to Charizard. So it knows Charizard very well. And if you don't know, in Pokemon, there's this um, main dragon Pokemon character, which is this one on the right. And this is basically a dragon, but it's not Charizard. And it mixes the two together because they're so alike. And I could not for the life of me get um, this character out. So if you have a character that is a lot less known, this model might not be able to render it. All right. So that's it for me, I guess. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I'm sure somebody will answer it for you. Now,